He's back on with us. It's been quite a while. Signed a new multi-fight deal during the week. And I'm going to try and get this right, even though it is my own tongue. On Dragon Aeronach, the Irish Dragon. There you go, in Irish. Cunas atá too, Paul Felder. How are you, my friend?
How are you? I'm great, man. How are you guys? Good to be back on. It has been too long, and it's good to be talking to you guys.
Yeah, it's been a minute. Lots going on with you. Obviously, you signed a new fight deal during the week as MMAfighting.com, I believe, released the news. First of all, talk to us about that contract. What's the is it a 4-fight deal? What's the situation there?
Yeah, just a 4-fight deal. And that's a pretty standard number. So obviously I'm not obligated to have to fight all 4 fights. And I think it stays the same, that these are going to be one fight at a time, one training camp at a time for me. And as long as I'm still excited and I feel healthy, I'm going to keep doing it. That's kind of the restrictions I set for me. If I'm not happy doing it, I'm done. But as long as I'm still enjoying it, now I can't wait to get back to grappling and training and learning again. And I think that's what I've really picked up in my age now and my experience, is that I finally learned to kind of pull off on the gas a little bit because of that fight and how I felt on only 5 days notice, having done the training I did. I think I learned that getting really heavy in between fights, and obviously we've known this for a long time, right? We've talked about how big I get and how stupid that is. But you got to go through some dumb things to figure that out. And I think that break and the quarantine and getting into cardio and triathlons really kind of shaped my mind in a new way around how I need to go about training, so that I'm ready to have fun on fight night and not being like, I can't wait to go home.
Yeah, that's fair. Talk to me about the financial aspect of it. Obviously, don't get into details if you want to, but is it a game changer? Are you on the big boy contract now? Is it that level?
Yeah, I mean, it's not like some of these guys are made. It's still not an absolute, it's not like I was a champion or a former champion, right? There's always that big push for those guys to get bigger numbers in some of their contracts, but it's up there in the division, I would say, of guys who haven't fought for the belt. I'm making the money that I want. It's the numbers I wanted, even the last time we negotiated. And now I'm getting those numbers because I stepped up and I'm happy with it. And it's one of those things where now, no matter what, I step into that cage, I feel like, I'm getting compensated for a slight amount of what I'm worth. I think the sport's still got a while to go before we all start making the real money we should be. But for me, it was definitely a step in the right direction, especially mixed in with commentary and all the work that I'm getting. It's a damn good living.
And talk to me, we mentioned it there briefly, just before we came on. You've mentioned retirement. I want to get onto that in a moment in a little bit more detail. But what was the reaction like from your family and from your mum, from Christine, when you signed that new 4-fight deal this week?
Oh, we were all happy about that, and everybody was kind of just like, this about time. You know what I mean? This is what you should have been getting. This is what you've been working for. So it wasn't anything crazy. I think the reaction to the fight and what I took last week was probably where the crazier reactions were from family. I was getting phone calls from my brother Tommy, obviously. Like, what is this? Like, what the F is this? Is this a rumor? What's going on? It's getting picked up by like the UFC and stuff. My mom's calling me. They're calling each other. Christine knew because obviously I came home from the gym and dropped that bomb. And so yeah, that was quite the fireworks show of my family kind of finding out before I ever even talked to them. They didn't even know yet, and they're seeing it all over Instagram, Twitter, Facebook. Their friends are calling them. Paul took the fight. Did you see that? And yeah, I surprised a lot of people. Even very close friends of mine were like, "What? What is he? Like, he's out of his mind." So yeah.
It was fun.
Are you conscious of how iconic this all is, Paul? Like, I mean, I can remember I heard Cormier talking about the week after on the Helwani show, and he was saying, like, about you taking the commentary obligations, and when you called him to say you were doing it, he was like, I'm not going to get in the way of this legend, because this is becoming a legendary story. But that last week, and in terms of your own iconography, it leads to this contract, all of this stuff. And I know
Definitely.
you've been doing this for decades, but does it feel like that week in some way has propelled you to a completely different stratosphere? Because that's certainly what it feels like. A whole new legend has been created around Paul Felder. Is that what it
Definitely,
feels
yeah.
like for you?
Yeah, it does. And it's just funny to me because it's just, I still wake up in the same house. I do the same stuff, but just online to see people call me this legend. It's fun for us, right? I'm always showing her the memes. I'm constantly resending memes I find every day, something new. Me just put into some movie or face swapped with, Stallone and stuff. And it's cracking me up, man. And I'm loving it. But it's fun. Yeah, I'm enjoying every moment of it. To get that kind of fun attention and to still be a badass in my way. And that's what it's all about for me, to be able to take that opportunity. And it's something I normally would never do either. You guys know that I'm usually just a stickler about the proper amount of time I need this to do that. But the situation I was in and where my weight was, now it was still a brutal weight cut, but I was still in a position to even think about taking the fight. Normally that's not even on the table. Like me taking a 5-day, that would be like me cutting 45 pounds in 5 days. And that was not the case.
Jesus.
Yeah, like I want to mention that to you because I got a text off you, and obviously you said you lost your passion from the sport. Where do you think that stemmed from, Paul? Losing the passion and not really wanting to get in there? Because even during the summer, like 3 or 4 times, I noticed probably from July up until probably last fight week, you weren't doing any media, any interviews, anything like that. You just didn't even want to associate yourself with the sport.
I think losing that really close fight that I was really kind of putting all my eggs in that basket. I got to go beat Dan Hooker in New Zealand. This is it. This is the story. This is what you're going to do. You've got to go to his backyard. And I was so prepped for that fight. I was in such good shape. I felt so sharp. The weight cut was so perfect. And then the fight is everything I hope. And it's just fighting. It's how it goes. You don't get the decision. And you go to the hospital again. And you're there extra days. You can't go home. You're going home again all busted up and not with what I wanted to move forward in the division. I thought, like, this is really it. If I'm going to make a run for the title, that was the fight. And then I would be fighting the Poiriers and the Fergusons and the Gaethjes and those guys. And it didn't happen. I think it crushed me, and I didn't really let it out, or I didn't complain about it because obviously it's such a close fight. I still can't complain about it, but yeah, I was just I lost that fire to get back in there. I looked at fighting in a different way. I looked at it as painful. I thought about the hospital. I thought about all these kids and calling their fights all their hopes and dreams. One of them is about to just get crushed. Like I thought of it from a very negative point of view. Wow. And I really got into the triathlon stuff, and I found a new passion for training. So it got me in great shape. And then slowly but surely, I started missing a little bit. I would still hit pads and work out here and there and love it, but I didn't overdo it. And when I got the call from Butler, I was on the treadmill and just something woke up, and I started running like a son of a bitch on the treadmill and just thinking about punching RDA in the face and getting bloody again. And yeah, in a good way, right? And then I was just like, I called the team, and everybody was like, "You're the craziest SOB, but you're the one I think can do this." And I had their full confidence, and then everybody thought I looked really good because I was in such good shape. My body was loose. It was the craziest week. One of the, other than, some of the personal stuff with my dad and obviously having my child, that was one of the craziest weeks of my entire life.
Wow. And I have to ask that, how, but like, I don't believe you. You talked about it there. Like, it's like normally a 3-month process, your weight cut, for you to get anywhere near like 155 pounds. And I know you're obviously training for the triathlon. You just said, you texted me, I think it was Thursday night, and you said, I'm a dumb mofo. How dark was it? Because you said you were in a very, very dark place on Thursday night. What was going through your mind, man?
I wasn't there. Like, I was so... anybody I taught, I was so gone and so delirious from the dehydration. And I don't want to get too much of this out of there. I don't want to scare anybody. I was definitely never near death, right? But I was I hadn't done this since the Hooker fight. And when I did it for the Hooker fight, I did it really well. So I didn't suffer like this. So I hadn't really suffered like this since last year when I fought in Abu Dhabi. So when I was going through it, I was like, oh my God, why do I do this? Why did I do this to myself? I'm watching these YouTube videos of, what's that stuff called? ASMR? Auto response.
Yeah. Where they're whispering?
But this one was drinking like beverages, cold ice cold beverages. So the glass, you hear the glass and the ice. And then these kids, especially these like Asian kids who are super into this stuff, they have microphones on their throat and they're just chugging these ice cold sodas and pouring them in the glasses. And I'm hours, guys. I sat
that is
there
a rabbit hole. That is
up next to my bed. I couldn't sleep 1 hour on Thursday night. Not 1 hour of sleep before weigh-ins at 9 a.m.
Holy shit! And how much did you get?
Was
it north of the 20s? You had to cut.
It was
30s?
probably 25 pounds from Monday.
Shit. Okay,
Yeah,
I never.
Part of the I was talking about the and one of the features. It feels like there's chapters in this whole week. One was to the fight, one's making weight, one is the incredible fight itself, and then there's fight interview, right? Where you kind of call out all these people. But this weekend, everybody started correlating this weight cut tirade, we'll call it, against Mike Perry's situation.
Yeah.
And I know you weren't speaking directly about that or anything, but I was just wondering, because that connection was made, what were your thoughts on Perry's big miss, I guess, for the welterweight limit?
I think the issue is for Mike, I think it's a diet and discipline thing. I mean, the guy is a 70-pounder. I know he's going to say he's not. And, I'm not trying to start anything with Mike Perry. I talked to him in the lobby of the hotel when I was, a day away from leaving from Contender Series, and he was just arriving to the host hotel. And we had a chat, and he was like, man, great speech. He even said to me, great speech. After that fight, you motivated me. I got all this weight to cut, but, now I can't. I have no excuses now. He said this to me. But then you see him that fight week, he's eating out, he's eating cheeseburgers. And man, listen, water cuts can be made from that weight. They can be made, but your body's got to be prepped. If you're putting processed stuff and sodium and fats like that, that's not what your body's craving. Healthy fats. You got to be low carb. You got to get some fruit in you. Like, there's a whole science to it. And these guys are not that expensive to hire one of these people or use the PI, which offers a service, but you got to listen to them. You got to listen to them. They can't just show up on weight cut day, throw you in the tub, throw you in the sauna suit wraps. Your body's got to be primed to do that. You've got to prep your body with the water load. Then your body starts forcing water out, and it'll force the water out in your sleep sometimes, not through urine, but I have sweat in my sleep because I'm so water loaded.
Holy shit. Yeah, I don't
so
know
that's
what
a problem probably with the lack of backroom staff. That's probably going to happen, right? If you don't have someone kind of keeping you on focus with that kind of thing, it just feels like it's a direct correlation there.
Yeah, if you go out and eat burgers, I mean, you're going to miss weight. And if you miss weight, you're going to lose your money. Then you go and you complain about money. A lot of these guys will complain about, I don't make enough money. Well, yeah, when you're losing 30% of your money off your show money, and then you lose the fight. Yeah, you didn't make much money because then Uncle Sam's taking the rest and you're broke.
I think your teammate put it well. I think, maybe there's other issues at Mike Perry in terms of him maybe wanting out. Bilal actually tweeted that at me yesterday when I put a post about Mike Perry. But I just want to move back a little bit, Paul. You mentioned obviously not retiring, and now you're definitively not retiring, obviously signing this new deal. Do you think that maybe took away from your performances in the past, having that maybe little bit of doubt in your mind that you were going to retire?
Yeah, maybe in there somewhere, and not that I was aware of it, but yeah, and maybe fighting to prove something different, and fighting just to not lose, and fighting to want to get to the top so much instead of just worrying about putting on my best damn performance right then and there. That might have really affected me too. Not having fun anymore. That's for sure. I know the last few fights have been so stressful for me, the whole camp. And I think that's what led to a lot of my thinking about walking away, even after some wins, was it just gets to you. These training camps, you're away. I remember the Edson fight. I was having nightmares about him like spinning hook kicking me in the head, which I guess is pretty normal considering. But like, it's a rematch with that guy. That one ate at me pretty good because I felt his strikes before. I knew what I was in for. I fought him when I was much younger, and then I got to go in there again. The Hooker fight with the whole build up and just my first main event. Now I've been there and I've done all those things. And I've lost fights and you're okay on the other end, So now I think I've got this bit of freedom of, I think I can beat these guys. Now I've been in there and faced the best on every circumstance you can be under. Training camp, no training camp, best training camp, worst training camp. So now you get to a point where you become a veteran and you learn to roll with the punches a little better and trust yourself. And I know I can fight. And so I won't ever be overtrained. I'll be much fresher for all these fights. My weight is down. I'm still in the 70s right now. Maybe hit 180 at my max is my plan and never get above 180, which is heavy for some lightweights. But for me, that's walking around pretty ripped up.
Yeah. Jesus Christ. What's your perception now of the division, Paul? Obviously with, we don't really know what's happened with Khabib, but there was an interview, I believe, on Russia Today during the week that he said he's definitely retired again. Dana's saying other things. Ali's saying other things. What's your thoughts on that? Do you think Khabib is definitely done with mixed martial arts?
I never really am sure about somebody being completely done, so I wouldn't doubt it, but I think he really does want to be. I think he wants to just be at peace finally. He talk about a guy who's constantly under the most pressure ever. You're a dominant, undefeated champion with a whole country just right there with you every move that you make. So I wouldn't be surprised if he does walk away. And if that is the case, I see some really I think the lightweight division is going to be on fire for the next 2 years if he's gone, because you've got a lot of guys that can beat each other and then rematch and it goes completely the other way. And you've got dark horses like myself who on any given night, you win a couple good ones in a row and you're right there in the mix and you're facing a lot of guys with very good striking, which means there's knockouts coming up. There's fight of the nights coming up. There's going to be close fights because there's only a few guys in there really that are super dominant grapplers. Oliveira's in that mix now. Tony, I consider, a pretty dominant grappler. Gaethje, if you want it to be, but never uses it. Connor's a striker. Hooker's more of a striker. RDA's got good grappling, but I think on a camp, nothing against him, but I don't know. I think some guys are going to give him trouble too, but I see him beating some guys. I can't wait to see what the matchups are. I'm just going to sit back now and kind of let it play out. And I think my name will be in that hat,
Yeah, no, I agree. I think there's been matchups made. Maybe even Tony Ferguson and Oliveira was a little bit out of left field. They were talking about Dean Tony and Michael Chandler. What does that mean for you then?
Chandler's going to get somebody in that mix.
You think so?
Sure
I want to ask you about that. Yeah. Do you think that's maybe unfair the way he was being, pushed right to the front ahead of guys like you, maybe even? Because it seems that way that, I've sort of felt as though maybe the UFC are disrespecting the guys that have grinded and fought out to get in the positions they're in.
Yeah, I agree. I think we kind of got pushed back a little bit unfairly there, but I knew that was going to happen, right? You bring in this new prospect. I'm sure he's, not coming in cheap either. So for the UFC, they're saying, listen, we're paying you. You're coming in. You're a former champion outside of the division, outside of the UFC. So I expected that. They're going to throw him to the wolves, and that's what he wants, to be fair. But you can't come in with the contract that Michael Chandler's going to be getting and get the number 12, 14 guy, even though they're savages and maybe could win. I'm just saying they're going to be like, all right, if you're coming in and we're going to take care of you, I think maybe Gaethje, he might fight him. He doesn't give a shit, does he?
Well, then where does that leave you then in terms of would you be looking at Michael Chandler? Like, what are you looking at? Islam Makhachev, who was obviously supposed to fight RDA. What sort of bracket or level are you looking at? Ali Akinte again? What's going to interest you?
There's always Al, but I know Al's been having trouble with his knees, so I don't know what's going on with him. I hope for him, I hope he's going to get through that and can fight again, because I know he wants to. It's just a matter of, is his body going to be ready anytime soon? RDA's got to fight somebody. I know he's probably going to skip past Makhachev now with that win over me, putting himself at number 7 now. I only bumped one spot. I was pretty happy about that. I thought that was respectful of
The situation, absolutely.
whoever does that, giving me my props for what I did and not, knocking me down to 11 or something like that, which I was expecting worst case scenario on that one. I don't know, Niall. I'm not really sure. I don't really care,
Is it still 5 rounders only? Main events?
Maybe not only, but I think I do better in longer fights. I think for me, if you're going to give me a choice and a preference, I would like as many 5 rounders until I'm out of here. If of all of my fights from now until retirement, if I had a choice, I'd want them all to be 5 rounds.
Wow.
Is there anything that excites you particularly, Paul? I know, like you've said to us in the past, like you need to hear the name on the phone and you'll be like, holy shit. And then the tone of the camp is set from there. Is there anyone outside that top cluster that gives you that feeling, honestly?
That's a good question. Outside,
well, I'm even looking at it now, going, what's getting the juices flowing for me? And like with Paul, it is one of those guys out of the top group, as we said. You know what I mean? It's very hard for me.
You give me a Nate or something like that, I'm willing to move weight classes and all that kind of stuff for that kind of a fight. He's a BMF guy. Amazing. He's just an OG and he's been around fighting everybody. So yeah, you want to excite me that way. It's automatically a main event somewhere or co-main on a pay-per-view. And I take that fight all day. Yeah. Something like that is what you'll get me to go outside of the rankings. Cause who cares what a guy like Diaz's ranking is? Nobody cares what that is. They want to see that. They want to see a scrap. And I think the two of us for sure.
Do you think you maybe?
It's a good fight.
Do you think maybe you've jumped the queue a little bit because of what you've done for the UFC this week? You've been rewarded with a new deal, a big bump in your pay, your money. Does it put you in situations like that, as you just said, for those bigger fights, for those Nate Diaz's, for the Conor McGregor's? Does it put you there at the moment, do you feel, with the promotion?
I think it gets me close. I think it gets me closer for sure, right? The problem is, obviously, I've had these 2 crazy fights in a row, and this one was crazy, and I know the circumstance were against me with the 5 rounds or with the 5 days, but still, I think they know for me to do what I did, even though it was an L and it sucks. The fight that I put up on 5 days, I think that if cool fights come up, they can market the hell out of that now that I took this thing on 5 days. We did all this. We made weight. So, I think I put myself in a pretty good position to get some cool things or, keep fighting up the rankings and work towards the title shot. But just fun, enjoying myself, enjoying the process is definitely my goal moving forward. And trying to just let myself be free again and go and get loose in there. I felt much looser in that fight. And if it wasn't against somebody who had such strong grappling, it could have been a lot looser. Cause you saw, we started exchanging. He was doing really well going back and forth. But anytime I got a little bit of momentum, he was so smart about level changing and pushing me to the fence. It was and we knew we were in for that. I mean, the dude's a former champ. We knew we were going to be in for a strategic battle with that guy.
So what
about welcoming Nick back? Nick Diaz. What about that? That would be, because he was saying he was in and around between lightweight and welterweight. I believe that report said. I mean, that would be crazy. That is, that one. Yeah,
65 to the kids.
Yeah, that would be insane, wouldn't it? Though that would be crazy.
Do it, book it, get it booked.
Sign it. Send me the contract.
Can I ask you about the commentary, Paul? Because one thing I've noticed, and maybe it's because I'm so zoomed in on the MMA side of things as opposed to other sports, but it seems like the criticism of commentary in MMA seems to be quite present every week. I'd say I see it for different broadcasters. I mean, how is that like going into a completely new thing? And not to say that the comments are directed at you more than others. I have no idea, but right. I'm just saying it seems to be so prevalent. Is that hard for you? Like, switching lanes into this new thing and people seem to be so hypercritical, I guess.
Oh God, they're brutal, man.
They're
so brutal. I read it about all of us. I'm like, you know how hard, I mean, we're talking for like 6-7 hours straight, sometimes 14, 15 fights in a night. We're gonna misspeak here and there. We're gonna maybe get on one fighter's side inappropriately because we're all humans. You guys are seeing one thing, but you're sitting behind a screen on it at home at TV. It's much more easy to pick everything out. There's a lot going on in there. So yeah,
you have
but
to
now
hit
I try to
spots,
really
etc.
laugh about it.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I try to laugh about it now, and not because I used to really ream these guys back and try to go to war with these Twitter guys criticizing me, telling me I suck, and now it's just I try to let it slide. But yeah, it seems to be more critical than any other commentary in any other sport I've ever seen.
Yeah, I agree. Actually, it's easy to me when I see it. I'm like it feels like, you know, people are watching the commentary more closely than they're watching the fight in some weeks, you know?
Yeah. It's like some guys set out, it seems, to wait. They're waiting with their phone for one of us to say something stupid or inappropriate or curse. Or the one time I didn't think they were coming back to me. So I took a bite of fruit or like a protein bar or something. And then John Anik didn't see it, and he turns and he's like, "And Paul, blah blah blah," and he realizes as he does it. And I'm chewing the food and I'm trying to talk on air and spitting it out into a trash can. And Dominic Cruz is next to me, laughing his what off at me trying to get my mouth clear to this food so I can to comment on this thing. And people are like, "Is he eating right now?" Oh my God, I got crushed. But I just owned it, and I remember tweeting a picture of a guy like with food in his mouth, and I was like,
"There's a good camaraderie there, though, right?"
Here comes the Twitter.
They all seem to get on really well.
Yeah. Oh, it's great. He jumped right in and took the. It was a highlight. He came in and just took the highlight from. Thanks, Dom.
Nice.
Your Twitter exchange of the year as well with that guy. That was hilarious. The one where he said, "Send me an address." What was it again?
I said, "Would you say that to my face?" And he said, "No. That's why I said it on Twitter." I said,
"Fair play to him." Yeah, fair play to him. Listen, a couple more, Paul. When are we going to see you back in there? What's your timeline? Obviously, the triathlon coming up, I think in January in Miami. When do you want to get back? Or March, is it? Okay, all right. So when do you want to get back in there, ideally?
Probably after that, in the spring. Unless something crazy comes up, I'm not necessarily saying no to certain things, but I'd like to wait. I just went through a pretty rough cut, and I want to get back into a rhythm of training, and I want to get back into the gym, the actual MMA gym, and grapple, do that wrestling stuff and that fighting stuff that I used to do before I took a fight with none of that. And but I still want to keep it. I want to keep it even with how much damage I take in the room anymore. I think it's going to be a different approach these days.
That's fair enough. Poirier McGregor's obviously coming up. What's your thoughts on that? Yep. Who's going to get the win there?
Oh man, I don't know. We'll see. It depends on what Conor's been doing, how much he's really been training, and because I know Poirier is going to look sharp. He's going to look pretty fresh in there, and his hands have looked so good lately. So I'm excited for that fight. I won't pick a winner, but I think it's going to be a much more competitive fight, at least, than it was the first.
100%. Listen, Mr. Felder, we'll let you get back and enjoy your Sunday night football. Always appreciate the time. And let's not leave.
He's closed the gap there.
Let's not leave it so long next time.
Yeah, we're 12-7 now, but it's raining.
It's all going to be turned around. Final quarter, I believe it, Paul. I think fly Eagles fly, baby.
Sure, his name's Peter Carroll. He manages the Hawks, is it?
The Seahawks, yeah, that's it, yeah.
Seahawks.
Every week I get shit off the fans like, why didn't you run the fucking ball? I'm like, I don't know what you're talking about, man. Whatever.
What does it mean?
Paul, we always appreciate the time. Looking forward to catching up. I believe you're thinking about coming over here next year as well when everything dies down. Is that correct?
God, I hope so. Yeah, I would love nothing more than to go get in some hill somewhere in Ireland in some little cabin and drink Guinness until I can't move anymore at some little pub that only 3.
Paul, I can't organize many things, but I can organize that.
That I know you can get us a place where there's nothing but sheep, grass, a pub, and a bed.
Oh, he definitely knows.
Paul, we always appreciate the time. Great to have you back on, and obviously looking forward to your next fight as well, man.
Nice mustache.
All the best, Paul.
All right, thanks.
Thanks, Paul.
Hello, guys. If you want to hear more of The Bash, you can subscribe to us on all our wonderful channels on iTunes, Spotify, YouTube, and all that other shit.
And click the links below. Click the links below, the notification button. It comes straight to your phone if we've any fresh content. And also hit the subscribe button. It does help. You're some plonker.
It's very serious.